Listen, our cameras were smashed. We were chased in cars, threatened. People with pitchforks surrounded our car, trying to flip it over. I've been in detention centers in about 4 or 5 countries, and of course, just a few meters from me, a mine exploded. During the war, I promised myself never to return there. Today, they're releasing footage of the most dangerous situations. These weren't just dangerous cases, these were moments that changed me. I reevaluated my outlook on life, changed my values, and truly became a different person. Today, I'll tell you about these moments, how it all happened. Some of it was caught on camera, some wasn't, but nonetheless, it transformed me into a different person. Today, I'll share this experience with you honestly. So, before we dive into the list of the most dangerous moments, let me tell you this. Often, a situation is dangerous, but you don't realize it. The camera can't capture the real danger. Imagine trying to convey the risk of entering an area with more police or special forces, or people who might stop you if they just spot a GoPro on your car, even under it. There was a real case in Somalia where I attached a tiny GoPro under the wheel. It was barely visible, but some cop noticed it. Man, we spent hours dealing with that situation. How can I explain this to you? When you're just driving, you can't grasp it, right? It's not just you, but any viewer. It's the law of filming, the genre's rule. Real danger isn't always captured on camera. It's conveyed when you can describe what's happening. At that moment, your tone and expression can reveal something, right? It will always be genuine. Often, situations unfold so quickly, events develop so rapidly. You can't explain it all. There were many strange, dangerous cases. It's all over, and now you have to recount it. Let's start our top list with the most dangerous situations, beginning with the mildest one. I'll gradually describe more and more frightening cases, ending with the most terrifying event that changed me forever. Congo. Just recently, Congo, a very complex country. Calling it dangerous is like saying all beer's tasty. It's diverse, huge, Africa's second largest. Some parts are extremely dangerous, with groups fighting for power, shooting each other, the government and police. They try to seize every new street and village and so on. To sum up Congo's situation, it's unstable. Just 9 days before we arrived, there was a coup attempt. So when we got there, the whole country was tense. Well, I don't want to compare this to Prigozhin's rebellion because these are completely different things and we're talking about different countries, but still, we remember that feeling when you're a bit tense, on edge, and react more strongly to news, right? You walk around feeling like something might happen. Now imagine an African country is in exactly that same state. Why do I emphasize it's an African country? Because generally people there, they're very emotional, much more so than in countries we usually visit like Turkey, Dubai, or Europe. In Africa, people are very emotional and sincere, rarely hiding their true feelings. So there, if you point a camera at someone who's really not in the mood today, they might just grab a stone and at least threaten to throw it. If you're he didn't like it, he might throw that stone again. It's unlikely he won't, that he will hit you, but still yes. Imagine a society that's used to living openly with emotions, sharing them freely. I'll never forget how after our report in Somalia, our fixer was almost beheaded. We had to evacuate him to another country. They threatened to cut off my head too. In that tense atmosphere, with all the emotional stress, we arrived, and at a crucial moment, foreigners attempted a coup. So there was this guy who called himself the exiled president. He lived in Belgium, organized his own group there. He had followers, you know. He flew in with his supporters saying, "Let's overthrow the local president and rule the country ourselves." They ran in and shot the place up. In the end, everything seemed to go on as usual. But these were outsiders, foreigners. And since we were filming all this, it was pretty suspicious, right? All the filming went really well. The whole trip was great. We had an awesome fixer, very professional guy. So one fine day, we're leaving the city, Kinshasa. Getting out of Kinshasa is no easy task because there are insane traffic jams. There are no real traffic rules, no road markings, nothing at all, really. Basically, everyone drives wherever they want. There's a vague idea that traffic should keep to the right, but no other rules. So we leave at 6 a.m. It's a long drive, about 3 hours. We've been driving for 2.5 hours, crawling through these horrible Kinshasa traffic jams when our driver decides to stop at a supermarket. But when he decides to go to the supermarket, there's no actual parking lot. There are no special U-turns on the roads either. So let's say we're driving on a 2-lane road with oncoming traffic and the supermarket is right there. Our driver simply crosses the oncoming lane at some point and stops in front of the supermarket. While we were inside buying water and ice cream, traffic built up on both sides of the road. So to get back on track, we need to maneuver. We should drive on the opposite side, find a U-turn and get back in our lane. But our driver's impatient and not used to complex moves. Instead, he just starts driving into oncoming traffic. Mind you, that lane's jammed where we usually pass. Cars are lined up in 3 rows now. All kinds of vehicles, motorcycles weaving between them, and even people with odd one-wheeled carts. This guy's just trying to drive against traffic, not straight on, but diagonally forward. He's planning to cut across the oncoming lane, which we're stuck in due to this jam. We've been here 30 minutes. One car, where my friends were, had tinted windows. No issues there. Our car wasn't tinted, which was a real pain. We're like fish in a bowl. The crowd's emotional, rushing to work. The jam's got everyone on edge. Now 4 white guys decide they need to pop into a store for water. Now they're trying to get back to their lane through oncoming traffic. At first I was smiling, because I know a smile is like an international language. Wherever you go, if you encounter unfamiliar or slightly unfriendly people, you can simply smile at them, and they're likely to smile back. You know, for the first 10 minutes, my smile worked. They looked, understood I wasn't driving, but then troublemakers started appearing in the crowd. A troublemaker is a guy on a motorcycle. He's like, "Let me cause some trouble." He gets up, approaches our car, starts hitting it, saying, "What the hell are you doing here? Is this how you drive in your country?" Suddenly, tension flares up. The crowd that was just standing around, not even noticing us before. We were just chewing gum, listening to music. Someone might have been walking by with bananas on their head, I don't know. Now they're all on his side.
I think this is the first time I've felt really uneasy because I realize how easily a crowd can get riled up. Just one person starts to shout loudly and others join in. Passers-by and people driving by start getting angry, furious even, and suddenly they're attacking the car.
What the hell's going on? They start yelling from all sides. What are you doing here? What the hell? Who do you think you are? It starts like that, then it gradually escalates. I'm thinking, damn, what's happening? I'm sitting there, trying to smile. I don't speak French, but I tried to explain to someone. Like, sorry, s'il vous plaît, and all that. My fixer immediately taps my shoulder and tells me to shut up. Shut up, he says. Don't try speaking French. If they know you understand, they'll tear you apart. You'd be on their level then. If you speak their language, they'll know you're aware of your actions and responsible. So he says, shut up and act clueless. I got it and did just that. Our only safety was to lock the doors so they couldn't drag us out. I did it right away, good thing too. In 3 minutes, they were trying to open the doors, yelling. Our driver tried talking, but he's local too, you know, not a saint. He just yells back, why are you shouting at me?
He's ready to take them on himself.
Imagine the situation. It seems to them that we forced him to drive like this. He knows they're just pissing him off and doesn't think much about it. He doesn't care. He's just pissed that some jerks won't let him pass. It was scary because you're trapped and can't get out. Don't leave the car in any case. You understand that your safest place is inside the car because if someone starts throwing things or tries to grab you, you've got no defense against a crowd except to just get out of there. We were saved only by a local traffic cop who showed up. When I hear the crowd, they're all like, yeah, we won. What do you think? We couldn't make any U-turn. Our driver haggled with him, babbled a bit, and it fizzled out. But it was scary because you're trapped, not knowing what to do. The crowd's anger is really terrifying. I faced it a few times. There's no time to explain anything, plus the language barrier, you know. I could speak French here, but not all of them speak French either. For many, French is a second language, and I don't speak French as well as Russian or even as easily as English. So you've got no time to explain anything properly. I realize the rules for these situations. You just agree with everything. You just raise your hands and don't try to resist the wave at all. It's impossible to resist the wave. If it comes, just wait it out.
Mama!
But that's not all. We head out, driving along. Things seem to have settled down. We stop at a local cafe to grab breakfast. We've brought our own food, since these cafes don't usually serve breakfast. They mostly offer beer and soft drinks like cola or Fanta. We ask if we can buy drinks and eat our food there. They agree, so we sit down. Ostas, our director and cameraman, takes charge. Our Stas, he really loves filming, for which I'm hugely grateful to him, because without his love for filming, we wouldn't get all these incredibly beautiful shots in such large quantities. So it's impossible to stop him from filming, yes, even if you essentially say, Stas, don't film. Well, not until you take the camera away. He will not stop. He becomes, he ate, got up, smoked, drank some coffee, stands on the street and sees a shot, but it's simple. A person's soul craves a shot, as they say. A person cannot live without a shot, and he starts shooting by himself. And it turns out that somewhere in the distant background, someone is walking, to whom this is terrible. He doesn't like the fact that the lens is directed towards him, and he's already ready to tear and throw because he approaches. And then it turned out that this guy also works as some kind of official. That is, he knows that he has the right to forbid. And he just comes up to Stas, what the hell are you filming? And you ask me, he says, I'm not even filming you. I'm walking and you're filming me. I see what's happening. He starts riling up the crowd again, and people just gather in seconds. Random folks who were just passing by. I don't know, they're walking eating seeds. Someone's carrying a wheel. Someone else is dragging trash somewhere. They all start getting involved too. Are you still filming this? Now 30, 40 people are surrounding Stas. We're right there with him. Our local guys try to explain things back and forth. Usually it works out, but not this time. I can tell this smells like trouble. My fixer says, Anton, now we're in real danger. He says we're in trouble, and I think, okay, the main rule when you're in trouble, first, try to just bail. That's what we do. We gather everyone, pay up quickly, I grab Stas, we get in the car, and try to leave. Our car is parked on the side. As we start to move, those 20, 30 people are walking. They've spread out a bit, maybe 15 left. They see us trying to leave and start yelling at the driver, "Where are you going?" And our driver gets scared. He doesn't resist or try to avoid them, doesn't hit the gas. He hesitates for 5, 10 seconds. In that time, they surround the car. Some random guy just gets in, opens the door and says, "That's it, we're going to the police." There's dead silence in the car. We're clueless. What police? I know that in this country, Congo, it's like this. They really hate tourists who film a lot. My fixer told me his friends drove a Romanian tourist who filmed a lot from the car. He's been in prison for months now, not allowed to meet a diplomat. Apparently, there are many such cases because they reclassify it as espionage. If you're a spy, it's serious. It's a threat to national security, it's terrorism. You snap a pic of some goat and boom, you're a terrorist. For real. So he's saying, that's it, we're going to the police, damn it. I think your mother is just fucking crazy, holy shit, this is getting so messed up. I mean, think about it, yeah? I'm with these guys who came as tourists. First off, they're waiting for us. If we're late, part of the program's scrapped. Second, third, yeah, I have no clue what's gonna happen at the police station. Yeah, I told you at the police, things can get twisted to the extreme. You might run into decent folks or you might not. Or you could meet some unstable people in a bad mood. It really depends on who you encounter. In the end, we arrive and I see everything's going from bad to worse. First, they take Stas away, won't let him go anywhere, asking, "Stas, where are your documents?" And Stas, our dear friend, forgot his passport at the hotel we just spent 2 hours getting through traffic from. Yes! I was so angry, it was terrible. They just say, "Well, what? Without documents, we won't let you go. We'll investigate who you are, what visa you have, why you're filming, and what shots." Let's see what you filmed before. This is where the trouble starts, you know. I realize it can go far. I'm saying seriously, they could label you a spy. You don't need to explain anything to anyone. You just wanted to call him a spy. You just throw him in a cage and that's it. Nothing you can do about it. That's the nature of our job. Each time it's crazy nerves and insane risk. You never know how you'll pay for this risk, and there are cases when it's impossible to pay. There are real cases where people just stay. Their life is ruined. They can't travel anywhere. What political events are happening in the world? Nobody gives a damn about that, or some tourist or journalist or blogger, someone somewhere in Africa. Every frame you see from those countries, it's just incredible.
It's an incredible sacrifice from everyone who does this. And yes, of course, we make money with our content there. Listen, you can make money in many ways. So when I get comments, or even more so when our guys, the authors, get comments like, oh, it's not scary enough, excuse this tangent, but when we're there, yeah, I understand that everything, well, that we need to save stars, we need to go. I tell my fixer, let's take motorcycles, because if we go by car now, imagine another 2 hours there, then back again. In total, it's like 4-5 hours until we find the passport and all that.
So I say, let's take bikes. These endless taxis will at least avoid traffic, get there faster. He says, yeah, let's go. We're about to leave together. We set off and I'm just riding and praying. I pray in these situations, though I don't really consider myself religious, because I know what's scarier than angry mobs or getting hit with a stone, ending up in some African prison. It's really terrifying. The conditions, the total uncertainty about what's next, absolutely no diplomatic ties, nothing. So we're riding, and I realize, damn, I'm sitting here as we ride with this crazy biker. We're going against traffic between huge trucks coming right at us. He's swerving left and right. I'm sitting there not caring about the trucks that could take my head off any second. I'm just sitting there thinking, and I fear this anger, because I know that it's real. Time passes, Stars messages me, I think maybe it's not so bad, They didn't take his phone. That's a good sign, really. If the Africans were tough, they'd take the phone. Don't give it up, no matter what. Anyway, we're getting to the hotel. It takes about an hour and a half. The problem is we can't ride on one bike. For a single motorcycle taxi, it's too far to drive. So we're switching bikes, I don't know, every few kilometers. We change 5 or 6 riders. Finally, we arrive, and I find my passport. Another big issue was our fixer wasn't willing to show any gratitude to the folks who detained us. I said, buddy, I've been in these spots, even in Africa. We can't leave without showing some appreciation, really. You gotta understand, we need to give them something. He says, no way, don't give them anything. They'll think you're a spy. I'm thinking, well, we ain't leaving then, man. The whole ride there and back, 3 hours total, I'm trying to gently convince him. I say, dude, we gotta find a way to thank them. Tell them we're sorry, we respect them, they're great, we'll give them something. I always bring stuff to Africa to give away, like solar-powered flashlights, watches, meds, and other things. I said, let's give them this stuff and explain our situation. Finally, I managed to persuade him. An hour and a half passes. We're heading back, and he says, fine, go ask for the passports. I said, man, please go with them. Oh, and I also burned my leg on the motorcycle we rode last. It left a massive blister, man. Yeah, basically we managed to agree and went. They didn't ask for passports from me or the group. Everyone just went. Honestly, I went too, but it's tough for me to get out of such situations. You gradually come back, but it's scarier to take out the camera again, scarier to start talking. It's always very, very well. It requires some effort. Time passes, you adapt somehow. But yeah, when you realize in the moment what kind of risk there is, it's definitely creepy.
The next dangerous filming moment was in Iraq.
Overall, it wasn't easy for me to go to Iraq because I'd heard about what was happening there. For several years, there was a brutal war with ISIS. Cities were just leveled to the ground, but as it turns out, Iraq is quite diverse. Yes, the south and north are radically different. If you fly to Baghdad, it's located roughly in the center of the country. If you go further south, you reach a region called Basra. Basra is known for being extremely hot, about 50 degrees Celsius. And Basra is home to oil fields. It's a very wealthy region, interestingly controlled by local elders who are much more influential than the actual government. Really, if you're a foreign American or other company wanting to extract oil there, you first need to negotiate with these elders, not the authorities. We were lucky to meet them, which was really cool. But overall, if you play by the rules and deal with these elders, you're generally safe. And if you go further north from Baghdad towards Kirkuk and beyond, it becomes more dangerous. Why? Because Kurds live there. They follow various religions: Sunni Islam, Yazidism, Christianity, Judaism, and Zoroastrianism. Basically, these are people who for many years haven't gotten along with Iraq's population. They've divided the country, so there's even an Iraqi Kurdistan. Iraq doesn't recognize it as a separate country, but it's acknowledged by many American allies. Kurdistan has its own capital, Erbil. I've been there, and it's a completely safe city. In the evening, you can walk the streets freely, unlike most Iraqi cities. In Baghdad, for instance, you can walk alone, but it's generally not advisable. And if you visit a city like Kirkuk, which has been around for ages, it's been passing from one hand to another. It belonged to Iraq, then Kurds captured it, then ISIS came, a group banned in Russia. They tried to take it over. So when I remember when we arrived in Kurdistan, it was probably the most dangerous feeling I had in Iraq.
It doesn't matter if you have a visa or not, or who you are. You could be the president of some country for all they care. If there's no local contact to vouch for you and take responsibility, they won't let you in.
I felt really comfortable there, except it was insanely hot. It was brutal, constantly around 43 degrees Celsius. Iraq itself is amazing, especially Baghdad, if you skip Kirkuk. You're blown away by the architecture when you step out. Italy and Spain pale in comparison to the grand buildings there. These are just magnificent, stunning buildings with powerful architecture, simply exquisite, you know? You can see there's a colossal civilization behind this, and you just immerse yourself. It's incredibly captivating. The Iraqis there are so incredibly kind. I've rarely met people as kind as in Iraq because they approach you and you just smile at them and they already like you. It was so amazing. I'll never forget the guy who caught up with me, gave me a ring saying, "Just, you impressed me, you look beautiful," he said. "We were in a group, but you, good people." He said, "Please take this ring as a memento." It was incredible. What makes Kirkuk dangerous, as I mentioned, is that it's harder for Iraqi authorities to control. There are many areas not fully under their jurisdiction. When I was there, we only walked to the hookah bar for about 5 minutes in the evening. We didn't want to go further. Even in Mosul, we didn't walk much either, but still a bit more. Kirkuk was like a place of dormant cells, various groups including terrorists and others fighting for power.
What's happening in Kirkuk now is typical across Iraq. Bombings, suicide attacks, killings, kidnappings. Explosions occur in both Baghdad and Kirkuk. The same goes for abductions.
I remember we headed to the front line early morning. I only went because we were escorted by local special forces. 2 or 3 jeeps arrived, arranged by my colleague. These were fully equipped fighters, armed with guns and wearing bulletproof vests. They knew the safe routes to take and avoid. They knew you couldn't drive down the same streets twice, right? If you went one way, you had to take a different route back. These pros showed us several areas where actual fighting took place. They took us to a village that, even when we were there, was still getting hit by terrorists from time to time. It was terrifying there because of that. I remember that village. As the door opens, we see a small, beautiful mosque. There's a crowd of well-dressed people, some wearing large headdresses. It's hard to tell who to trust. They don't really distinguish outsiders, though generally strangers aren't welcome anywhere. In places where outsiders caused trouble, started wars, and changed everything, you're seen as one of them. No matter where you're from or what language you speak, you're still an outsider, unfortunately. So we walk in, and I remember this really oppressive atmosphere, because you enter and they all eye you suspiciously with these heavy looks, like in the movies, not looking away, wondering who you are, if one of them might pull out something and start shooting at you. But it turned out not to be the case, because the men we encountered had themselves suffered greatly. They suffered greatly from the war. These were the families who personally witnessed ISIS, who personally lost children. They lost their children to ISIS. This is unbelievable. Of course, it shocked me. That is, they understood very quickly. They understood who was a friend and who was an enemy. I'm talking about ISIS. If a person had any ties with the state, you didn't even necessarily have to work in the police or anything else. No, it was enough to merely be an employee of some state university. Any state university, actually. The brother of my fixer was just that. That is, he was a university employee, and he kept being detained at checkpoints, interrogated. It was very difficult for him. It was tough for him. Eventually, once there was an assassination attempt on him, and he left entirely. He left completely for Germany. This filming, it stayed with me for a long time, because it contained such a sense of some profound fear, such unease with which she, such that, I don't know, as if rails of unease were laid inside you. It's inside you, it's huge, heavy, you can't lift it out of yourself. I would only compare it with this, really, because everything seems so quiet. Everyone is in a state that they affirm. We sleep with guns. We sleep because we do not know what day they will come. I remember, yes, it was a very unsettling, nagging fear inside. After about an hour, they told us, we need to leave now. We need to leave now. Information spreads quickly through kids, just one telling another. Any stranger's presence is noticed fast. It's even worse because we're outsiders and federal agents, a perfect target. So when we left quickly in different directions. Our car went one way, the other went another. I remember that feeling. It's scary to think people live with this feeling for so long. That's when I understood what war really is. When you feel war like this, you can't see it any other way than something to run from.
The next case took place in South Sudan.
This is Africa, and South Sudan is a very young country. It's extremely underdeveloped. The capital looks like a mess of makeshift shelters and shacks. I mean, tiny houses, people living in cemeteries. It's a total nightmare there. But the special services there, I've noticed in many countries, the less developed a country is, the more terrifying its secret police. In such nations, they're obsessed with espionage. Because when a state is newly formed and there's no established regime yet, no stability, everyone's extremely suspicious of each other. Everyone's watching each other. I'm just checking everyone. You need like 100, 500 papers, 833 certificates, extra licenses, pre-approvals, and who knows what else. All these docs just to bring a tour group there. It's crazy. It's rare when they ask for all the gear you'll bring months in advance. I prepped for 6 months and they're like, tell us 5 months ahead, give us a full list of your equipment. I'm thinking, how should I know what I'll shoot tomorrow? You want me to tell you what I'll bring in 6 months? They say there's no other way. So I think, fine, I'll jot down a few things. I'll bring a camera, phone, mic, maybe a model. So what do you think? I arrive, and first thing they're like, let's check out your gear. They pull out the list I sent 5 months ago and say, all right, let's see what you've got. They're like, where's this camera? But I brought a different one. I say, nope, don't have those. They're like, what do you mean you don't have them? Why don't you check and see if I'm trying to hide something from you? What's the point of comparing what I brought to the list? Wouldn't it be better to just inspect all the gear I brought and determine what can be imported? They do things differently here, and I have no clue what the purpose is of this bizarre process. But for some reason, it mattered to them that the list you provided 6 months ago matched exactly what you're bringing in now. One camera was missing, then a few other items matched, until they got to another camera asking, where's the GoPro? I said I don't have one. They're like, that's the second item on the list you're missing. Are you sure you're not a spy? I wonder why logic hasn't made it to this country yet. Where's the logic if I didn't bring in the camera I brought? What's the deal with your spies? How do you think spies actually work? It's just absurd. Look, I get that I have a drone with me, which is strictly forbidden. They told me 6 months ago it's absolutely not allowed. I thought, well, if it's not allowed, I'm going to this strange country. I won't bring the drone yet. I'll at least try, but I have, and it's just lying there somewhere. They're looking at everything, and I've kind of tucked it under the chair. Then I realized that the GoPro they really want is in the same bag as my drone. To get the GoPro, I'd have to pull out the drone. So I wanted to say, I don't have a GoPro, but since you're so worked up, I'm starting to fumble around, moving stuff here and there, the bag here, and oh boy, some juggler turned on a package. From my head, I pulled something out. Here's the GoPro. They're like, okay, that's it, thanks, go ahead. But South Sudan is quite a big country, not like Congo, but still, we were in the capital where there's always the closest scrutiny. There are always lots of security officers there.
I'm pretending to be talking on the phone as I walk because in order to take even one picture with your phone, you have to obtain a permit from the Ministry of Information. Crazy, right? There was a case when 2 foreigners were arrested for taking a picture of a local gas station. That's brutal.
All kinds of things. Special services, police, cameras installed there. If you go to tribal villages, it's different. You can do whatever you want there. So that's how it was. We first spend about a week traveling to these tribes. Amazing tribes in South Sudan, the most beautiful I've seen. Some in Ethiopia are also really cool. It's all incredibly impressive. Then we arrive and I negotiate with the Red Cross. My team arranges with the Red Cross to film with them, but the Red Cross says, guys, we need you to have official permission to film. And we think, all right, let's apply for official permission. We submit it, and what do you think happens? I arrive at some point and they just stop me like, hold on, please. They say, Anton Vyacheslavovich, are you crazy? You've been here for 7 days in our country acting like a journalist without permission. Please, get on the first plane and get the hell out of here forever. Just deport yourselves right now. So everything seemed to be going well. I thought, damn, what's this? Turns out it was a scam for favorite gifts, yeah. I was in a similar situation and acted pretty much according to my usual logic. I said, guys, I'm sorry. Let me offer my deepest apologies. We in no way wanted to break your rules. We respect you greatly. You're a cool, developing country and all that. Because I understand that I really need to film at the Red Cross, since they have super exclusive content. They show the hospital exclusive footage. Basically, the Red Cross work is very interesting to watch. So I agree to everything. In the end, they give me this paper with something written on it. That's it, and we part ways. This is the permission, but that conversation wasn't easy. I'll tell you honestly, I was brought there by a friend who, let's say, knows how to deal with them. But even he sat there silently at that moment, like he didn't know what to do. You never know what to expect from them, you know? So you have to think on your feet. When he said, that's it, we're deporting you, taking all your equipment. Yeah, it was scary.
The next dangerous moment occurred in China.
It was the very moment when COVID was just starting. It began in Wuhan, as you remember, and as soon as it started in Wuhan, the first thing I did was decide to go to Wuhan. It was really difficult to get there because Chinese airports practically weren't accepting any flights. It was really hard to get there. The nearest city you could fly to from Moscow was Shanghai, and they're not exactly close. It seems to me it's still a 2-hour drive from Shanghai to Wuhan, non-stop. And we arrive, and I realize that Shanghai is empty. When we start driving towards Wuhan, with every town we pass through, there are fewer and fewer people, fewer and fewer people. The highways are just empty, I remember. It's an incredible feeling. You're driving on these huge, very wide, really nice highways, like quality roads, but there was no one on them. And at the same time, it was as if I'm driving and I know Wuhan's locked down. There's a good chance that when I reach the city, they'll just turn me back. We won't get past another checkpoint because all the roads have become checkpoints. There are police cars that only let ambulances or vehicles with special permits through. They definitely won't let in crazy bloggers like us. So we're taking some back roads, passing through small villages. In these villages, I stop now and then to talk to people, film and share stories. At some point, I'm stunned by how much of a police state China is, not just in terms of government surveillance, but how people watch each other. I step out on the road to say something to the camera, and right next to me my guide says, let's bail quick. Just sit, don't even look their way. We left once, it's fine. We'll drive for an hour or two, then head to another small town. We'll get out, film a bit here and there. Same deal. Then some random guy yells, stop. Who are you? Stay put. I'm calling. Guide says, let's bail again. We bailed like 3 or 4 times. At some point, we arrive at a village. Our driver, he's lost asking locals for directions. I look around and see this scene. It's kind of funny. Pigs walking around. It's a village, a Chinese village. I get out and film a bit of daily life. I get carried away thinking, oh, I got a pig on camera, got a dog too. I'm thinking this when he tells me, come on, let's go upstairs somewhere. But my guide warns me, Anton, we've been here too long, Anton. We need to go, but I got distracted by some weird rooster there. I chased it, and now he's saying, well, let's go, but I think it's too late. We're just leaving this barn or whatever, getting in the car, and suddenly we're surrounded by these local village guys with pitchforks. They're standing right in front of us saying, try to leave, stay here. We called the police. You scum ain't going nowhere. They're blocking us. I tell them, let's back up like we're turning around. Our driver, the Chinese guy, he says, no way, man. He won't play along with them. He won't do it. They called the police, he says. It's over. And I'm alone. I don't have my cameraman with me, and I realize the most valuable thing I have is the footage I've already shot. Yeah, I had been filming for 2 or 3 days at that point, until the police arrived, maybe 10 minutes pass. In all this chaos, it's tricky. You gotta plan where to put everything. I hid some cards, but not all. They arrive, and first thing, he silently takes my phone. Then he grabs my GoPro camera, plugs it into his phone. High-tech country, right? He starts checking, sees lots of footage, and says, all right, let's go. My escort was also Russian-speaking. He's not been a good friend since. They take us to the police station, acting super professional and coordinated. They separate us, me, my Russian-speaking escort, and the driver. They question each of us thoroughly for a long time. Then some senior guy shows up. They start examining all the cards. At that moment, I was having some kind of panic attack. I remember I was in a state of panic. But why? Because I realized that I had memory cards with footage from my trip to North Korea, which I had taken maybe a couple of years prior, and I knew for certain that they didn't like my reporting there. China and North Korea are very close allies, and if China wanted to, they could easily extradite someone to North Korea. I wasn't sure if they had seen the footage or how they interpreted it. It turned out that when they interrogated our driver about where we were heading, he gave them the name of some location which they told me was a secret military base. They demanded to know how I learned about this place. They're like, no, our driver told us exactly. How'd you know? We can't move past this. I'm not budging. They keep asking, how'd you find this place? Then it turns out you need a journalist visa to work there. We went on tourist visas because journalist visas were hard to get. So I couldn't admit I was working as a journalist. That's why at first I said we're tourists checking out these events. When they kept bugging me about how we found the military base, I finally said, look guys, we're journalists. Here's my name, check my YouTube channel. They looked it all up right there, went through everything and searched absolutely everything. They searched my backpack, suitcase, everything. They found my cards and took all of them, even the other ones. They didn't just delete them, they took them so we couldn't recover anything. Then they didn't simply let me go. They said 2 officers were assigned to me. They knew I'd be there for 2 more days before my return flight. For those 2 days, the officers would be around me, though not always visible. They'd be nearby, Basically, I'd spend the rest of my time under surveillance. That's how it was in China.
I went to Karabakh.
Karabakh. I went there in 21 when everything leading to its full annexation by Azerbaijan was just starting. At that time, all the lands I visited belonged to Armenia. I decided to go right when it all began, which was smart because just 3 days after I entered Karabakh, they stopped letting journalists in. The situation was getting worse daily. When we went, we contacted the foreign ministry. They said, yes, we'll meet you. We boarded a bus with other journalists from Yerevan to Karabakh. I remember we waited long at the entrance, a gorge with many military vehicles. There were many refugees, huge numbers of people on buses, and lots of military personnel. I remember going into a cafe where all the seats were taken by soldiers. They were feeding a group of people for free dinner, obviously. And I found out that, damn, almost the very next day, about half of that unit was wiped out. That's what happened. It's eerie when you walk in and see around 50 people sitting and eating, and a day later they tell you that half of them are simply gone. Yes, there was a lot of chaos, and this was probably my closest encounter with war. It left a deep impression on me. Honestly, it's horrific. Everything there is absolutely repulsive. With each kilometer closer to the fighting, things become more and more inhuman. You feel a surge of adrenaline. You feel the turmoil, and the combination of adrenaline and chaos breeds something inhuman. It seems to me that this state is unnatural for a person. I mean, we are all primates. And the state of hunting is familiar to us because when you're hunting, you know how to protect yourself and roughly understand how things work. But when you're heading into battle, you don't understand a damn thing. You may think you do, but then out of nowhere, a mine flies in from somewhere. Then a missile from another direction. Then something else, like some kind of drone. If you're not a pro fighter, just a regular person, you won't know what to do in this situation. It was my closest brush with war. I was driving there, honestly, on pure adrenaline. In my personal life, some intense events were happening that no one should have to experience. I think in any other state of mind, I wouldn't have done it. But at that moment, I felt like whatever happens, happens. I didn't have that, strong sense of self-preservation. When you really value your life and try to protect yourself from all sides, even though life is the most precious thing you have. At that moment, I just needed to do something, anything, but stay alone with myself. As terrifying as it sounds, that's how it was. It was easier for me to go than to stay home alone, facing the situation that was happening to me. So I went there, and when I arrived, I'll say it again, we were brought to the city, which at that time was called Stepanakert. This is the same city that was recently entered by those soldiers who periodically report something. We spent our first night there. They put us up in a hotel. There were explosions at night, constant ones, but they were off in the distance. No one from the ministry or any other body takes responsibility for escorting each journalist here and there. So they set up a headquarters in a specific location where they hold their briefings. All journalists are confused, crowding in this tiny room. Dozens of people, close to 100, I'd say, and a few military personnel who occasionally give updates. Then they start organizing, let's say, trips to affected areas. And during one of these trips, a mine explodes, wounding 2 French journalists. They're seriously injured in the stomach without bulletproof vests, as I recall. And it was a high-profile case. France sends a special plane to retrieve these reporters. Macron himself meets them in France. So, the next day I'm heading to another town, and I'm thinking, if we get wounded now, who's gonna send a plane? Who's gonna meet us? Nobody really. The feeling that no one's responsible for you in war except yourself is overwhelming. I was running on adrenaline right up until one moment. So we went looking for a chance to visit the front line. It's not easy, you know. There aren't many people there, and even fewer driving around. We joined a group of Armenian journalists, brave guys, I must say. They were there to report back to their country. Everything's under control. But it turns out, it's not. Well, anyway, the morning starts like this. I meet them at their spot. They've got this car, just a regular one. Can't remember the make. Driver up front, cameraman next to him, journalist in back, and me. We're driving. At first, I thought we were heading to a normal city, you know. The city itself is like, well, you can find buildings you can enter even during combat. Some buildings might be targeted, others not. You can go to a basement to talk to someone. I remember we were first taken to a building surrounded by sandbags, the main headquarters, the administration. We spent a few minutes there. I realized the shooting and explosions are still far off. After about 10-15 minutes, they start yelling at us to get out because the explosions are getting closer and louder. Yeah, this was the day before we went with another group of journalists. Our driver was flooring it, and when we got to the city, we entered a building surrounded by sandbags. It was the main HQ. So you gotta realize you're walking into the enemy's prime target because they're not just aiming randomly.
They're targeting decision-making centers, specific important buildings, you know? We were heading to an artillery position, driving through mountains for ages. Then the driver says, "Look, we're about to come out in the open. They'll see us from the other side, so we'll go full speed." The road was awful, just rocks, really. We're 5 guys crammed in this small car, totally exposed. He warns us the car might not make it up the mountain. It's struggling, the road's terrible, and he goes, "That's it, we gotta go on foot." We jump out, don't even close the doors. Suddenly something flies in. We hit the ground. I'm in a vest, not exactly in peak shape. Haven't run in body armor for a while, you know? He starts sprinting, yelling, "Hurry! We need to get to cover. We're running. There's fire all around." No, wait, those aren't bullets. They're mines. You can't see where the shells land, you just hear them flying around. And a normal person can't really understand in that state where they're flying, where they're headed, how far they're going. The only thing that gives you a sense of safety is to lie down. What's flying, where it's going, just lie down. That's all you can do. Lie down. You can't do anything else, right? Lie down, but where? Even if you do, it might not help. I remember trying to take cover, squeezing into some kind of mound, something that could hide me from the other side. You can't see that side with your eyes. You don't understand anything. In the end, we just keep running. Step outside and there's this massive howitzer. Underneath it, there's a big dugout with about 15, 20 people inside. I realized that Azerbaijani TV shows footage of these exact howitzers being hit by drones daily. They air drone footage of the attacks flying in and then it's gone. Nothing left there. I get it, bunkers are needed in case a rocket hits nearby, shrapnel flies, but people inside are safe. However, if a drone hovers above, ready to drop something, that bunker won't do much good. You'll all end up as one big mess of dirt and flesh. Just as we reached the howitzer, intense shelling began. It was close and lasted long. We thought we'd quickly film and return to our vehicle, but the soldiers said, "No, you can't leave now. Stay put." We sat there for ages, probably an hour, maybe 40 minutes. The whole time shells were falling nearby. One landed really close to us. Yeah, that was the moment when you grow up fast. I was terrified. I value my life, and I'm not ready to sacrifice it or any part of it. Not a single body part for anything. I'm just not willing to do that. And I realized it right then. Yeah, I was ready. Well, as ready as one can be. You can't really be prepared for death, I guess, but I thought I was at least preparing for it, you know? But I wasn't ready. I recorded a message from my daughter. She was only 4 years old at the time. You know, I recorded it thinking, well, what if something happens, you know? If something happens, they might dig up these areas, find this card, and probably check what's on it. On this card. And sooner or later, they'd find it and show it to my daughter. And right at that moment, as I finished recording, turned it off, stopped the recording, I sat there thinking, can you imagine your daughter watching this video? I love you. Forgive me. What do you think she'll feel? I think nothing but tears, pain, fear, horror, and the weight of your words, which you say in this video. The value of these words, because love, family, and relationships to loved ones and children, it's not in words, it's in actions and deeds. If you've brought your life to a point where all you can give your daughter is a video saying sorry, no one but you is responsible for that, and I never wanted such a life. In this dugout, I realized I don't want anything to do with war again. I promised myself I'd never go to war after this. When you're in a dugout, explosions nearby, I'm sure if you'll survive, you realize that video for your family should be shoved up your ass.
The only reason I'm doing this is to show the horror, the insane horror of war. It's fear, it's everything. It's destruction. It's just against all that's human, simply against absolutely everything.
Self-destruction. I remember it vividly. I'll never go back. I deeply sympathize with those who face it. Nothing scarier. You're thrown into a world where killing is just routine. Everyone's lost, not knowing what to do. It's an unnatural environment for humans. Yes, it changed me. I realized I can't sacrifice myself for work anymore. I won't give up time with my beloved family, wife, and daughter. I'm done sacrificing. The core issue is sacrifice, giving up something to gain another. We think that way, but I see now these are needless sacrifices. I can't be that person anymore. It doesn't bring me joy or purpose. It only brings fear, horror, and ruin to my life. Honestly, after returning, I started therapy. Not because of the trip, but due to those personal situations I mentioned. It took me about 6 months to realize that I've had enough. Enough adrenaline, emotional roller coasters, and endless chaos in my life. I want to live, value my life, and approach every choice and action I make consciously. So, I understood I might disappoint some who'd say, Anton, we subscribed when you made dangerous content. At some point, I simply wrote down names of people whose opinions matter to me. That made things much easier. This was Lyadov. Thanks for listening.